So today's Bible story is known as a parable. Do you know what a parable is? If you do, say it really quick. A parable is a story that Jesus would tell to help people understand other things. And so today, we're going to learn about a parable from the Bible. Now, before we get started, you've probably noticed that we're not inside the church, and I'm not inside my home like you should be, but I am outside on my farm, and I'm next to the pigs, because pigs are super important to our story today. Did you know that it takes a lot of work to care for pigs? You have to feed them and give them water and make sure they have a nice house to live in, and then you have to clean that house, and you have to keep them warm in the winter and cold in the summer, and their feed bags are really heavy, and it takes a lot of work. But here's the thing, even though it takes a ton of work to feed pigs and care for pigs, we don't live with them and we don't sleep with them, except for the guy we're going to learn about today. We know him as the prodigal son. Now, a prodigal is somebody who has a lot of money and they spend a lot of money. The prodigal son grew up with everything he could ever want. He had money and clothes and nice food, and he had tons and tons of friends, but he was unhappy and he always wanted more. So one day he went to his dad and he asked for his inheritance. Now, normally an inheritance is something that you get after somebody dies, but he couldn't wait any longer. He wanted it now. So he went to his dad and he asked him for it. And his dad said, "All right, son." And this is how that story unfolds. A very rich man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, "I want my share of the inheritance now, before you die." So the father agreed and divided his wealth between his sons. A few days later, the younger son packed up everything he had and he moved far away. While he was there, he spent all of his money. About that time, there was a great famine in the land. And because he didn't have any money left, he began to starve. He found a local pig farmer and asked him if he could work for him. The pig farmer said yes, that he could, and that he could feed the pigs. The young man was so hungry and he was so poor that he longed to eat what the pigs were eating. Eventually, he decided that he needed to go home, but he was afraid to because of the bad decisions he had made. He was afraid that his father would be mad at him and wouldn't love him anymore. But he had no other choice, so he packed his stuff up and he headed home. He decided he was going to ask his father if he could be his servant to help make up for all the money he had spent and everything that he had done. He was ashamed and he was embarrassed. As he got close to his old house where he used to live, his father saw him in the distance. His father was filled with love and compassion and was so excited that his son was coming home that he ran to greet him. He hugged him and he kissed him because he was so happy. The father told his servants to get ready for a huge party because his son was finally home. The older son heard all of the music and came in from the fields to see what was happening. He was upset and a little bit jealous because his brother was having a huge party, even though he had only done bad things. His father looked at him and said, "My son, you have always stayed with me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day because your brother has come back home. He was lost, but now he is found." The young man was foolish. He had made bad decisions. He had made so many mistakes. He didn't have any money left. He thought he had no friends, and he thought his family didn't love him anymore. And he was so sad, and he was so lonely, and he was so poor that he wanted to eat the pig food. So what I did was put some pig food on a plate, because I want you guys to know how gross pig food is, okay? This is really gross food. And he was so hungry and he was so lonely and he was so sad that this is what he wanted to eat. And then he decided, you know what, I'm gonna try to go home. And so he packed up what he had and he went home, and he was scared because he thought his family wouldn't love him and he thought his dad wouldn't love him anymore. But that's not what happened. Do you remember in the beginning when we talked about what a parable was and how a parable is a story that Jesus uses to mean something else? Well, this is what Jesus meant with that. What he meant was, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter the bad decisions you make, or the mistakes that you make, or the mean things that you've said. Jesus loves you anyway, and he's always going to welcome you home. And if you ask for forgiveness, he's always going to forgive you. You don't have to eat pig food when you get sad and lonely because of the things you've done. You just need to talk to Jesus. And so this week, when you're with your family and you're with your siblings and they start to get on your nerves just a little bit, remember how much Jesus loves you and that we're supposed to love people just how Jesus loves us. See you guys next week.